Greetings, and welcome to the 9th episode of my podcast series, English Sovereigns. The focus of today, King Edmund I. When Edmund acceded the throne of the Kingdom of the English in the year 939, he was immediately beset by an invasion from Olaf, who was the nephew of King Sihtric of York. During the reign of King Aethelstan, King Sihtric had been the king, but he had died, and so Aethelstan had simply annexed the kingdom. So Olaf did have a claim to the throne of York, and it seems that Edmund allowed him to press this successfully, so he became the King of York, despite York being technically part of England. This is curious, to be honest, especially given that when Olaf died in the year 943 and was succeeded by his cousin, also called Olaf, Edmund acted as the new Olaf's godfather. Maybe Edmund had seen that Aethelstan had potentially overreached himself as the king of the English, and that he needed sub-kings to keep authority, because bear in mind that York was not predominantly Anglo-Saxon, it was Danish, because it had waves of Danish settlement for quite a long time. So perhaps they needed a Dane or a Norseman on the throne of York to keep it and to control it. However, soon Olaf was deposed and York was reintegrated into the realm, so it was only a temporary thing. So we can only really speculate as to why Edmund allowed it. Nevertheless, Edmund, with that alliance, was able to conquer Northumbria again, which had been conquered by the first Olaf when he had come over in 939. And then once York had been reintegrated, he fought against Strathclyde and extracted a good border regime, extended the border of England in return for, a good alliance, or, a pledge that, there wouldn't be any war anymore. Which perhaps shows that, again, Edmund saw the limits of Aethelstan's reaches into the furthest corners of Britain and thought that he should probably not be too harsh or overextend, which I think was quite prudent of him. Yes, so aside from that, he continued the European interventions that we'd seen under Aethelstan and Edward the Elder. He spearheaded a successful diplomatic attempt to restore his nephew Louis IV to the French throne after he'd been captured by a renegade count, which shows that English power was evident despite the internal tussles over York and Northumbria that England was experiencing. Edmund's reign was cut short after he was murdered outside a church in Gloucestershire in the year 946. Later historians have perhaps romanticised this a little bit, saying that he was trying to protect a servant. The assassination might have been a political one in nature, or it might have simply just been a disgruntled person coming up and catching him totally off guard. We can never quite know, but we do know he was murdered. So yeah, that was Edmund's, even though he reigned for about 7 years, a relatively short reign in comparison to his immediate predecessors, and his full brother Edred becomes king in the year 946. And that's it for today's podcast.